Finally, you're at the theater to see a film you've been dying to see. The lights dim, the projector lights up the screen, you're bursting with excitement. But scene after scene, the film is slow and boring. There's really only one thing worse than a bad movie, and that's a bad movie you financed yourself. And as news gets out that your film is getting bad reviews from critics and the public alike, you're on the hook and can lose millions or more. To make things even more complex, films can fail for a variety of different reasons, and some can never be fully anticipated, making it impossible to learn from others. So join us as we explore the most expensive box office bombs of the 90s. And stick around till the end to find out which film set the record for the biggest flop ever. Starting off with the flop of the year is Hudson Hawk. After the release of Die Hard, Bruce Willis was at the peak of his career. But in 1991, when Hudson Hawk dropped, it was the drop of his career too. With a huge budget and a production cost of $65 million, this action drama turned out to be an absurd comedy, featuring Bruce Willis as Eddie, a master cat burglar just released from prison who just wants a peaceful cup of coffee, but instead gets blackmailed into one last heist. And the crazy part? The story was written by Bruce himself. Not only that, he also decided the tone of the movie, which became the biggest reason for its flop. Audiences couldn't even decide whether it was an action drama, a comedy slap, or a musical, because Eddie was literally singing in some of the heist scenes.
So, Hawkmeister, we got you clothes, great hotel,
And this failed strategy and promo direction ended up costing the production team a loss of $50 million. If you are enjoying this content, it won't cost you $50 million, so hit the like and subscribe buttons so we can bring you more content like this. Another flop bomb that aimed to speed things up on ice but ended up cold and forgotten was Chill Factor. Released in 1999, it starred action thriller duo Cuba Gooding Jr. and Skeet Ulrich as two unwitting civilians forced to protect a top-secret chemical weapon codenamed Elvis, which becomes unstable and explodes if its temperature rises above 50 degrees. The hope for this movie was to launch Skeet Ulrich as a leading man and build him a promising career, since he had some heat from Scream of 1996. But Chill Factor was so slow. The tone was wildly inconsistent. The stakes were supposedly world-ending, but the humor felt cartoonish. It tried to be an action thriller and a buddy comedy, but lacked the smarts, pacing, or chemistry needed for either. The movie also had terrible marketing. The trailers made it look like a speed knockoff, which honestly wasn't far off, just without the thrill. Even Roger Ebert, the famous movie critic, described the film as cliché in every sense of the word. The next box office bomb was Hard Rain. If failing in bad marketing and bad promotion ever had a face, it would surely be Hard Rain. The film was released with a plot where a town is evacuated due to heavy rain and torrential floods, and a gang plans to loot $3 million amid this chaos. But sadly, the movie went so wrong at launch that it lost almost $50 million. The plot of the movie was predictable and cliché, according to critics. Even the audience wasn't interested in a lesser version of big disaster movies. Hard Rain was released around the same time as Titanic. And we all know how huge Titanic was, as it drowned everything else in its path, including Hard Rain. Money poured in, making its budget around $70 million. But it barely collected $19 million. You can do the math. It was an expensive box office bomb. Coming to the biggest flop of the decade, The 13th Warrior. The movie was an attempt to adapt the novel Eaters of the Dead by Michael Crichton. The story revolves around a Muslim ambassador, Ahmad ibn Fadlan, who is sent north in exile because he falls in love with a noblewoman where he encounters a group of Viking warriors. There, he finds out that the village is threatened by mysterious, monstrous invaders known as the Wendel. A prophecy declares that 13 warriors must go to defend the land, but with one condition: the 13th man must be a foreigner. Ahmed is chosen as the 13th warrior, helping them uncover the truth about the Wendel and joining them in the battle for survival. But this historical drama just wasn't good enough for the audience. In fact, no actual audience existed for this complex story.
He's going to get killed.
That is possible.
You can't.
Even the production blunders and reshoots after negative test screenings pushed the film's budget to a massive $160 million. The film's enormous budget created unrealistic expectations. It was marketed as an epic adventure, but it ended up being a much smaller, more character-driven story, leaving many viewers disappointed. With a revenue of less than $61 million, it eventually led to a loss of over $100 million, making it one of the most expensive box office bombs. Now, we've seen blunders of bad marketing, bad promoters, and loose storylines. But Lolita made us wonder what really went wrong. This movie was based on the famous novel by Vladimir Nabokov. It's about Humbert, a grown man who becomes obsessed with a 12-year-old girl named Lolita. The movie totally misread the mood of the 90s. This was an era of action blockbusters, romantic comedies, and Disney magic. Lolita was a dark, serious story with taboo content, not the kind of reason people were heading to theaters. And the result? Despite being produced with a budget of $62 million, the film grossed only $1 million. Due to its controversial topic, the movie was even banned in countries like Australia.
She was only the dead leaf echo of the nymphette from long ago.
But the film gives us a real graph of audience expectations in the 90s. Lolita may have aimed to be art, but it ended up as one of the biggest misfires of the decade. It didn't just fail at the box office, it failed to connect ethically and emotionally with its audience. And today, that failure actually teaches us that storytelling, especially about sensitive topics, needs responsibility, not just style. The next movie is the blunder of sci-fi cinema, with the film Soldier. It takes place in a dystopian future where babies are raised from birth to become emotionless killing machines. Kurt Russell plays Sergeant Todd, one of those soldiers. But when a newer, genetically enhanced group of fighters comes along, Todd is declared obsolete and dumped on a trash planet. Literally. There, he discovers a group of peaceful settlers and slowly starts to grow a conscience. And the crazy thing? Kurt Russell said just 104 words in the entire movie. That's less than the average TikTok caption. And this silent badass just felt empty. The film claimed to exist in the Blade Runner universe, but didn't actually do anything with that. It only made $14 million worldwide. That's not even close to covering its $60 million budget. Over time, Soldier gained a cult following. Some fans admire its stripped-down storytelling, solid fight scenes, and Russell's totally committed performance, even with barely any lines. It's not a mainstream hit by any means, but for some sci-fi lovers, Soldier is an underrated gem hiding beneath the rubble of 90s flops. Now, if things don't sound bad enough, wait for this one. A movie that literally holds the record for the biggest flop. Cutthroat Island was released at the wrong time, with a storyline about pirates that didn't quite hit the mark. Sure, pirates were a thing back then, but this movie features Gina Davis as Morgan Adams, a pirate captain on a quest to find hidden treasure. She teams up with William Shaw, a former pirate turned mapmaker, to decode a treasure map and confront her treacherous uncle, Dog Brown. The film is notable for its gender-reversed lead, with Davis portraying a strong female pirate captain, a rarity in Hollywood at the time. However, it looks like the gender swap trial didn't work. The film generally received negative reviews. Cutthroat Island grossed only $10 million domestically and $6 million internationally, totaling just $16 million worldwide. That's not even a quarter of its production cost. Due to the massive sets, including a full-scale replica of a pirate ship and elaborate period details, the production budget skyrocketed to $115 million. The movie performed so badly that it eventually led to the closure of Corolco Pictures. And if that wasn't enough, with a loss of $147 million, adjusted for inflation, it earned a spot in the Guinness World Records for the biggest box office flop ever. Looking back, these box office bombs of the 90s weren't just financial disasters, they were case studies in what not to do. Films like Hudson Hawk and Chill Factor failed because they didn't know what they wanted to be, while Hard Rain and Cutthroat Island were sunk by competing blockbusters and bloated budgets. Others, like Lolita, ignored audience sentiment and crossed ethical lines. Even Soldier, which had a solid premise, lacked the emotional core needed to connect to an audience. What we learn from these busts is simple. Success isn't just about big stars or massive budgets. It's about clarity, timing, and connection, and maybe a huge dose of luck. So, what do you think? Did these massive flops deserve their fate, or was Hollywood just way too ambitious? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know which 90s movie disaster shocked you the most.